We'll wait. There's no green, so there's no sound coming here.
Claudio, pull this guest up next to you. Pull.
Sorry.
Yeah, pull him up in the. He's
Merrick.
Yeah, I couldn't get him logged in. This is why we do live shows, guys.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. There we go. Yes.
There we go. All right. Sorry,
Yeah,
everyone.
good.
I had a little technical difficulty on my end, but I believe we
No
have it
worries.
straightened out. Welcome, everyone, to the Global Business Expo segment of Innovation Unscripted with myself, Merrick McCartha, and our wonderful founder, innovator, Claudio Perrone.
And it's totally unscripted because I have no idea what's
That's
going on.
unscripted. I was going to say, Claudio has no idea what I'm going to ask or talk about today. So it's interesting because Claudio and I have a second-hand relationship because Claudio works with Peggy McCartha, who is my wife, quite a lot. And interesting, her office is almost adjacent to my office, so I am in earshot many times of some of your conversations, which are always fascinating, folks. You have no idea how funny that can be sometimes for me to hear them. I think one thing I heard about you is that you were very quizzical about the notion that Americans, when they get drunk, they puke in the toilet, and you're like, how can that be a custom in America? I was like, yeah, where are we supposed to puke? We're supposed to puke in on the bathroom trash can next to the toilet. That would be disgusting. Who would ever do that?
Yeah, that's weird. I thought it was just in Hollywood. Actually, I have this theory that maybe it happens in Hollywood where you live.
Oh, you thought it was like a Hollywood event, something in Hollywood? Nope.
It's a bubble. It has to be a bubble.
It's something that across America, it's a thing that happens to people in their 20s here. People can vouch for me in the comments if you want to. Okay, again, I'm glad to have this time with you, Claudio. We don't know, we haven't really had a conversation like this. We talk about some tech things you helped me out with Ripley, but other than that, we really haven't had a.
You're right. We always joke behind your back, right?
I'm sure.
Because Peggy was telling the story that she suddenly discovered, I don't know how many years after you were married, that you speak Russian.
Yeah,
right?
I got rid of
so
good, huh?
that would be like a typical spy behavior. Right? and so that's why we always joke, like saying, okay, he must be for sure like he's a Russian spy.
Yeah, I'm sure there was absolutely true that she thought for at least a time in the beginnings of our relationship that I was like some kind of undercover CIA operative. Because and her friends would tell her, so wait, he's an actor, so he's like gone for weird periods of time, and he's showing back up out of
Exactly.
nowhere, and he happens to speak Russian too. It's going. There's something else.
That's a perfect cover, like an actor. Like it seems like.
Absolutely. I gotta go film in Budapest. I'll be right back. I gotta go. Gotta film in
Exactly.
Iraq, baby. I'll be back.
That's perfect. Exactly.
Yes. So I want to talk a little bit about you because I just learned fascinating things about you. So the information that I have on you, please feel free to correct me because
Sure.
we haven't talked about this personally, but from what I understand about you, not only you're the founder and CEO of Ripley, but before Ripley, you were 16 years as one of the most respected lean and agile consultants in the world. You're a fellow of the Lean Systems Society, and you're an award-winning international keynote speaker. Did I get all
Yeah.
that right?
Yeah. I mean, written like that, I guess, sounds a bit
Sure.
pompous to say the least.
No.
But yeah, I guess. Yeah, I mean, what we were talking before about visibility and the idea that we have multiple talents, and all of us have multiple talents. There's no doubt about that. One thing I was saying before was, though, in the chat, was that I always look for an epic battle. And so from time to time in my life, I chose a battle to go for, right? And so there's a time where most of my life, I guess, as a consultant in this kind of field of lean and agile. I've been in the early days, for example, for agile for software development, which is basically pioneering how people are building software today. Back then, it was quite revolutionary. We're talking about the year 2000, 2001. And so I was in the early days working with true pioneers who wrote a lot of, for example, books and stuff that basically their name is in the history of software development. So I've been lucky enough to be exposed to those kind of to that kind of mindset. And when you're relatively young, I wasn't young anymore, I guess, but when you get together with people like this, the first question you ask yourself is, what the hell am I doing here? Why did they invite me? I was at these invitation-only workshops where you would have like the top 10, 15 software architects in the world, right? And you go there, you talk about pattern, anyways, like billion different things. That changes in many ways the way you behave. I remember at the conference, for example, it was one of these people, very well known, who just finished complaining about people do not debate with him anymore. And we were just on a speaker lounge, like at the conference. We were having dinner, and I completely disagreed with him on something. Doesn't matter what it is, but we disagreed. And he started saying, "Did you publish papers about this?" And I said, "No, I'm doing a talk now." You have a social responsibility to share what you know with everybody else. And this is probably 20 years ago. It's still stuck with my mind that all of us, we have a social responsibility to share what we have, like our knowledge. And so I don't know. I think throughout my career, it doesn't matter what I did, I always look for battle, but also think about the overall impacts that what we do have in the rest of the world, right? A problem is almost never a problem in isolation. It's part of a bigger system, and so I always analyze the system.
Right. And that moments like that, inspirational moments like that for you, would you say that helped you when you look into getting into the business world? You're dealing with software innovations in software development, how things change, how things dramatically changed maybe 20 years ago. And we look at that kind of change, or perhaps that level of change with business, with the advent of the proliferation of the internet for everyone. How are you implementing those ideas about sharing with everyone, sharing what you know with everyone for the business?
So, well, that's an interesting question. So before, I've been I've been a consultant. I know one thing I'm not good at is writing books. Like because people are just not prolific, right? I would have like 20 books in my head. Just maybe now in AI times, maybe something will come up. But I'm really, really bad at that. The thing is, has always been like being part of a community. I've been creating local communities in the past, for example, where I would always help creating a culture of continuous experimentation. Doesn't matter what the field is, right? Is really like to say, to help others. Actually, this has been part of my mission for a long time, is to help people bring the best of their work to the world. Like a mission like that, right? And then obviously it materializes in different ways depending on the context, right? So in certain areas would be like about creating a community, helping creating this community, where again you don't take the role of if it's a role of a leader, is a role of a servant leader. So you're there to serve, right? Which is I find a lot harder than be the autocratic leader, the one who knows it all and pretends to know it all and tells people what to do. Those are not the kind of organizations that I generally like, because what you turned out is you build basically reporting organizations. You have someone who reports to the one on top, to the one on top, to the one on top. And whoever is at the top of the pyramid usually has got a lot of stuff lost in translation.
And
but
so
if you take this pyramid and you turn it down and say, no, I'm the servant here. In fact, for one company, we designed it upside down. Literally, the CEO was at the bottom, to actually say, who's making money? Well, the workers are making money, and everybody else is putting oil in the cogs, right? Is trying to make things go a little bit faster.
Visualization. I read somewhere that you do visual seminars because of how you communicate. But that's a great visualization you described there of that. So I agree with you. My knowledge about business, and I've learned a lot about business from Peggy, is there's a fine line, with this trying to manage a business, but also trying to be communal. I think Peggy's words earlier were something to the effect of, she said, I'm very competitive, but I'm not adversarial, I think is what she was trying to get to. Like there's a difference there. You want to be competitive and but not everybody's your enemy in this business. And you talk about building community, which you see as a real strength for a business, not just your niche in the business, but for the business world as a whole. So talk to me more about how that works with community and how that business really helps.
I mean, it starts, I guess, from this idea of abundance mentality versus scarcity, right? Scarcity means if I win, you got to lose. Because there's only so much in the, here's the pie. If I take my pie, that's it. You can. With abundance mentality is exactly the opposite. You actually say, there's value that we can give to everyone, and if I'm successful, everyone can be successful. My success doesn't necessarily mean that you need to lose. In fact, there's a great possibility that we can raise all of us, right? In fact, I was thinking about creating a newsletter called The Rising Tide.
I was going to say the exact same quote, the rising tide raises all boats. Yes.
Because, on one hand is, Ripley is all about the ocean, but also there is this kind of strong idea of actually saying,
I think
when Ripley is successful,
and the waves, I think you got to incorporate that title, The Rising Tide. I love it. Yeah.
Absolutely. But I'm fascinated by you as well, because you're an actor, right? And I've been studying, for example, a lot of storytelling in the past. You were talking about mentioning the work about I've been an award-winning keynote speaker at different conferences, like opening conferences, closing conferences, and one of the things that distinguished what I did was, first of all, I used to draw cartoons. Now with AI, it doesn't matter. Everybody can have like,
but you were sketching your own cartoons.
I had really characters and whatever.
Great.
But the very first presentation I was lucky, because the very first presentation I did had happened to be a story-driven presentation. It was about something that happened, right? I was a talented software developer. My technical skills made me feel invincible until one day I faced the IT project I could not run away from.
Yes.
My career and actually it was something like my career and self-esteem were put in great danger, but the only IT project I could not run away from. Dun, dun, dun,
Yes.
to be continued,
Yes.
right?
That's right.
So,
that's how scripts are
that's the
pitched in
hook.
Hollywood. Exactly.
Exactly. So someone wants something badly and goes after it against great odds. Turns out that I had to study, not I had to, I wanted to study a lot of screenwriting books. Not my goal, obviously, is not to write movies at all, but I realized that with screenwriting, you have to be very choosy on the words you use, because it's so expensive to design a movie, to create a movie, that basically either your words in the script tell something about the character, or they move the story forward. Otherwise, it should not be there, right? If you write a book, you can go on a tangent for 3-4 chapters, go back and whatever. You can't do that with screenwriting. So I'm really curious to see, to know about your experience on screenwriting.
Yeah, and that is a rule too about being efficient with your words, because people look at, in Hollywood, from what I understand, people look at script pitches in words of partially in number of pages. So people can have a wonderful story and it's like 120 pages, and no one's going to take that script because it's not going to work on any medium. It's not going to work in a movie theater. Certainly not going to work in TV unless you say this is a 6-part series or something like that. But otherwise, no. Generally, the rule of thumb is 1 page is equal to a minute of time, generally speaking. So 120 pages is 120 minutes, which is 2 hours, which is why that's different. So you got to be efficient. Typically, a 60 to maybe 90-page script is acceptable for a feature film. With a TV show, particularly half hour, it's 25 pages. With an hour TV show, it's between 45 and 60 pages. So yeah, you've got that's a great story, and that's a great structure you spelled out about how it works. You're running along, you got this hero that's introduced, and all of a sudden there's this insurmountable challenge, and then you go from there. And you carry this, and now you've got,
That's what we also learn. I guess you learn in life, right? Without obstacles, there's no story.
Yeah.
But definitely one thing I learned from learning about movies and storytelling is that, well, in good scripts, there's always the transformation, right? So those obstacles and the choices that you make on the face of those obstacles are what make you, what make the story. So we transform ourselves. And I think a lot of people here, like all of us, like we definitely met obstacles both in business and in life, but it's the choices that we make when we face them that actually makes a difference.
Right. Right. And again, these choices that you make, whether they seem to turn out good or bad, these are still stories that we can all connect with. And I think I would say anyone here listening to this right now, every single one of us has a story in us that is ready to be on the script. There's some part of your life that you may not think it's worthy. You may not think it's a failure. Or you may think it's mundane. But these are things that people connect with. These are what sells scripts. These are what connect audiences. And it is about connection, how you reach people. And that reaching people is this mutual sense of humanity that we all can share. And when you can put that on the page, write that down. And like myself, many of us don't have the wherewithal to really kind of organize our thoughts to write down a concise and effective script. But those experiences for us are all there. So we all have lived this story of, this humanity and this thing that is fascinating for people. So don't be afraid to share your stories, is where I'm going with this, because they're how you connect with people. They're how you show who you really are, and you earn trust that way as a business person, in general.
for example, I did a presentation. The very first time I did this version was something like, I faced these obstacles, project succeeded, and this is why. 1, 2, 3, right? And that's, though, it's telegraphing. Basically, you're telling already it succeeded, and I just said, it succeeded probably because this 1, 2, 3, right? And you explain it.
Yes.
Makes it for clarity. But then I changed it, exactly the same truth. I faced these obstacles. This is what I tried first. 1. And now people don't know, did it succeed? Did it not succeed? Now they're listening to you, right? So sometimes, and I'm saying that in business as well, is important, because sometimes we have great ideas. We don't know how to tell them. We don't, there is a sincere problem on having these great ideas, not being able to quite capture them in a way that would bring people in. And so, like, learning about storytelling definitely is helping, to the point where, like, a lot of accelerators. I worked for 5 years for one of the top accelerator in Europe. The accelerator is someone, it's an entity that helps startups to take off, right? And so we would run a lot of experiments and things like that. But one thing you learn is, you could have a great idea, but then at some point you need to be able to control the narrative, right? To how do you present your idea, your project out there to the world? And so, like, it pays off to learn about these storytelling techniques, which may be far, maybe from your normal business. I do techie stuff, but at the same time, it's a business, and you still need to bring different skills together.
I think so. And I think also people struggle with this fear of failure. I know that's part of your story too, is having these, what some might consider colossal failures, and not to let that deter you from trying to express or build your business, for example, because that is where you're really learning, is in these failures. That's the road to success, is the failures, and,
So a good trick is to learn from the failure of others. If you can, of course. But yeah, like, I mean, my story is about, like, launching a lot of businesses, partnerships with a lot of people. Not all of them paid off. Even last year, I was mentioning that before, like the Nikos story. There's a booth there about Nikos, is the story of what I went through. Basically, I went through a project, and project was epic. I didn't trust the people I was working with. And then at some point I realized, oh gosh, there's no chemistry. There's no way I can continue moving forward. But I didn't spend much time thinking through, beating myself up because this thing didn't work the way. I just left. I took action, left, and 3 days later I started repeating.
Right. So tell me about that experience. Now, from those, and you've had that happen to you at least more than one time. Would you say that people can develop a process for what to do with those failures when they happen? You talk about how you don't sit there and just spend all this time dwelling on that. You actually build from that. So what would you say is a good practice to probably try to implement when you're running a business or starting a business and you have a failure, either the whole business or part of it, and then you're trying to deal with that failure?
So there's two. It's interesting, right? So one is not, sometimes you fail, but it's a death of 1,000 cuts, right? So basically you hang on with it. Business is not really picking up in any way. You say you try, but maybe you're not trying. It's like, often what happens is we try maybe a big thing that doesn't work, then we get morally depressed or whatever. So I'm a big fan of experimentation. What it means is, first of all, I tend to be a perfectionist in certain areas, and the way I deal with that now is to say, let's run an experiment, maybe a 2-3 days experiment, maybe a week experiment. An experiment as an action, what I'm going to do, But more importantly, it's got an expectation. So at the end of the experiment, this is what I expect, right? And I write it down so that later I can check what was my expectation, what's reality. Now I have a gap. What did I learn, right? If things don't go the way I expect, that's the way I do it. So, and I typically run a lot of experiments. So, for example, at the previous expo, I had this idea of launching a community called Brunch Hackers, basically to show the tricks on how to push like GoBrunch, the previous platform I was very familiar with, to the next level. And I run some experiments. Basically, I did some presentation in my booth, and the idea was, well, if I find enough interest, I will probably start this community. Well, it turned out that people would not leave the booth, right? They would come, see all the stuff that I was showing. I was showing a lot of tricks on how to do, and on the fly, I was doing all this stuff. And I lost my voice. I spoke 4 hours in a row.
Oh, wow.
4 hours in a row. I just could not. And then I had the next day as well, because the expo was split. I mean, something
you had to
like
learn
that.
sign language overnight. Okay, hold on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. But other time you may run experiments with all your hopes. You just try them and they don't work. So the key aspect there is to run experiments that are short and safe to fail, right? So if I go to, for example, we come to this expo, right? We are basically exposed to the possibility that we met someone, or we see a business, but often is we met someone who changes our life, because maybe the idea really changes the way we think, or we meet someone in which we create a partnership. Anything can happen, okay? Now, the thing is, this doesn't happen every time. In fact, it could be rare enough that something really, truly life-changing can happen, or true great friendship or partnership can form. But there is this possibility. Okay. And so as an experiment, people who choose to come to the expo, people who choose to create a booth at the expo, may be safe with the idea of actually saying that you are exposed to the possibility that something great happens. It's a so-called black swan event. You can't find black swans all the time, but there is that possibility. If you don't come to the expo, you're not exposed to that.
Right.
So what happens is,
I'll interrupt you only to say that it reminds me, there was a commercial that was airing years back, and it was a Jack in the Box commercial. You may not have seen this, Claudio, but many people here have. And it's a commercial. There's this big physical live expo happening, and the Jack in the Box master guy's walking through the expo, and he comes across this guy who's got a booth, and everyone else's booth is decked out with the decor, and they've got the swag and everything there. This guy's booth is just bare. Him in a chair, one sign that says, "I'll taste your burger for $20,000." Like, that was his thing. It's all it said. $20,000. I'll taste your burger and give you feedback. And so the Jack in the Box guy says, "What do you get many people with this setup?" And the guy says, "All I need is one." And that's what you're talking about. Sometimes,
absolutely that. So
Yes.
let me add to this, right?
Yes.
The point being is, right, that event is rare. And it's exactly what venture capitalists do, right? You don't bet on one company. That's too risky. What they do is they create a portfolio, say 10 companies. All they need is one that takes off and pays for everything else. So if I run 10 experiments, 9 of them fail, and the 10th one changes my life, I'm still going to do that.
Right.
Okay.
So is your word today to expand or diversify? What would you call that for business owners here today?
It's, to me, it's like run a lot of cheap experiments and don't be concerned if an individual experiment doesn't work out. Maybe you created a booth today, and maybe you won't find today the person or the people that you were hoping for, the number of people, whatever. It could be a number of things. It depends on your expectations. But the thing is, like, you keep doing these experiments where you try these actions, you set some expectations in advance, otherwise we lie to ourselves, and then you see the gap between the expectation and reality. Now, 40% of my own experiments fail to meet my expectations. If I don't fail often enough, I'm not daring enough.
I was going to say, for people that know this, the last part of that commercial I just talked about was later the Jack in the Box guy walks back behind this guy's booth, and he's got a guy signing a contract on his back because he doesn't have a table, but he's got the one guy. Yep. He's like, thumbs up, I did it. That's
yeah, that's exactly it. And that's what we say as well in entrepreneurship. You only need to be right once.
That's fantastic. Claudio, good to get to know you better. I think hopefully dispel some myths you had about me as far as my relationship to the spy industry. And I will hopefully help you feel more educated about why we puke in the toilet versus the trash can, so we can at least walk away. If nothing else, we've got that too.
Exactly. That's the one. That's the takeaway. That's my black swan.
Yes. So there's a lot of great things about you. I wanted to maybe getting into this about how it says, after 30 years helping organizations change, what made you stop consulting and start building again?
It's always been in my heart to build products, right? And I don't know, like, with consulting, you cannot scale, right? You're doing consulting, but you're limited by your own capabilities. And one thing I learned about as well is, like, in consulting, when I started the job, I thought, well, if I'm good at consulting, people will come. Basically, you only need to be good at your job. And funny enough, I used to be like a chief technology. I used to do like a lot of other stuff before. And I felt, well, I'm going to do consulting, so I don't have to go and do business development, sales, all that kind of stuff. And then you realize, wait a second, that's a lie. You have to do the part that you like. You also need to do the sales and everything that you may not like, right?
Sure.
And definitely I was not interested in building like a large organization, like a consulting organization. Some people are more kind of business centric from that point of view. They find the opportunity and they find it in a different way. For me, it was always about building products. And so, this is definitely not my first project, but I feel with Ripley, there's something different that a lot of developers like me don't often find, right? Which is this kind of meaning, this kind of impact. Sometimes we all heard, or we all have like some stories of already now Ripley is helping, their own business, or the amount, or even the amount of trust that people are putting into the platform already. It's quite a responsibility, I find, which I'm happy to
yes.
take.
Yes. I wonder how you handle that, if you feel that as a pressure, because you're a wonderful software developer. Amazing. You built this, and so many people trust what you've built, its effectiveness, its workability. You are very responsive. If there is any issue or glitch of any kind, you're on top of it right away. And I just hope that you understand how many people appreciate you, because I've seen other businesses and people that aren't. I experienced that myself as an actor. People aren't responsive, and it's like it's frustrating. You're, especially people like Peggy, who is always in integrity with her business and her word, and to encounter people that are not that, it's something that really just it's hard for her to deal with sometimes, because she's holding herself to the standards. She's expecting other people to do the same, and I know that can be a challenge.
Well, I must say, building a software for the community, with the community, like this is a great social technical challenge, right? There are parts that are purely technical. I have a bunch of friends of mine, they're top developers, they're eating popcorn and see the story developing, right? Because obviously they would be very inclined from the, we definitely talk a lot from the technical point of view, but they are learning a lot of how this story is evolving. There's been a lot of challenges in the past. You can imagine moving from, I don't know, a group of, actually a large group of beta testers from completely free to move into paid. So now you suddenly change a business model, also comparing it with, what a lot of us were used to before. There's a number of challenges, but having said that, the community itself protected me a lot, right? You have a lot of few vocal voices who, would say, this is not for me, and they publicly make their declaration, they leave, and you say, well, okay, it's not for you, goodbye. What can I say?
Yes.
But I must say the community at large has been incredibly protective of an understanding on where the vision is, and when it was time to give me a break and I'd be out. I can say, without doubt that we have like a lot of really serious ambassadors here who are wonderful.
Yeah, and I met a few of them actually, and congratulations to you and the wonderful team that you have around you with this. So I apparently have gone way over our time. I don't know how. I guess we just keep talking. Yeah, it flew by. This happens when you have good conversations with people. So I appreciate that, Claudio, and I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me and to impart much of your wisdom to the audience today.
Thank you, Merrick. It's awesome.
Sure.
We will talk again for sure. More often,
yes.
For sure.
Yes. So there's a panel discussion coming up next, which Peggy will bring forward.
Nope, there is not a panel discussion.
There is no panel discussion.
It is time to explore.
Time to explore. I'll let Peggy come in and take the reins here 1 second.
Very good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh,
thank you.
He turned off my camera. He didn't want you guys to see me. So sorry, we had a little bit of technical difficulties getting started, but man, what a great conversation. And